everybody. And yes, I believe I do have the microphone situation taken care of. And so want to make sure how's the video and um, how is the audio. And I'll just wait to get a little bit of feedback. All right. So yeah, here we are. And today's been an incredible day. I cannot tell you. Yesterday was incredible. This week has been incredible. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, so much. All right. So, as everybody knows, hi, everyone. Hi, 10,000 Lakes. Hi, Realist. Thanks for being here. Thank you for the clip. Thank you for being a supporter, fellow supporter. I look horrible. Yeah, I've got COVID hair. I have not been able to make it to the beauty parlor, so I apologize. And yes, my goatee is tickling me, or my beard. So yes, my channel is taken off. By the end of this live, I should be at 1,000 users, 1,000 subs. As a network technician, I keep talking as a network lingo. You're not users. You're subscribers to my channel, and I am very grateful for that. Hey, yep, Apple Watch Series 5. It's amazing. I love what it does with my sleep patterns. One of the things I use for the most, and also working out. And there's a delay between the comments that I see and then the comments that I read. And then when I start getting going and talking and my hands get to moving because of my Latinness, then I'll lose track of the comments. I'll go back and read them and come back up. But thank you so much. Listen, I am looking forward to the future and so many things that it brings, and that's just here we're here to talk about. And it's also just a place for me to be able to talk about my research. So yes, I have a strong feeling about these two comets intersecting. I have a strong feeling that the eschatologies, the end times of all of the religions that point to an event that's going to happen, it's going to be witnessed in space, all of them, the Hopi, all of the Indus, not just the Hindu, but the Indus Valley, which the Indus people are so old and so amazing. And that's where the yoga tradition comes from. They understand proper alignment of your energies, just opens some space for you. Yoga is amazing, and I can go into that one day as well. But the Indus Valley, the Indus tradition talks about a major war that happened over 30,000 years ago, and they describe nuclear arms being used, nuclear weapons. And if you go to some areas of India at some archaeological digs that they have had there, and I'll link some research to that, they have found the remnants of nuclear explosions. Hey, Shu. I'm listening. Oh, not you. Sorry, Siri. How do I do it? No headphones? I've got a mic. It's just a one-way conversation that we're having. So maybe, if we want to do a Zoom session where we can all talk at the same time, I'll set one up. Hey, Epic. How are you? Kunwar. Hello. Yeah, Kunwar. Yes. Gosh, you're there. So you know what I'm talking about. Yes, pay attention to Kunwar. Yes, the Indian tradition of there being a massive war of the gods, and nuclear arms being used. This is amazing. There are no such things as coincidences. Um, so, we have that age, that third age, that now we're in our fourth age, we're going into our fifth age. And something that I ran across today, which was part of the preview, which I'm leading up to, is doing the eschatology, the end times of the Muslim religion. The Muslim religion speaks about our current age and was written in an age that couldn't imagine what our age is currently doing, which we're like, hey, good times, whatever. It's part of living and being business. But the eschatology, just like the eschatology of Catholicism, the eschatology of the Hopi, by the people that wrote it and have been transmitting it, these end time stories, these end time, uh, I don't want to say philosophies or stories, but prophecies, for lack of a better word, all of these prophecies are starting to manifest themselves. And today I was doing a video. Hang on a second, guys. Preparing, and one of my great commenters, I'm not sure who it was right now. I need to give credit to this, but they posted a Twitter feed with this picture of Venus. Well, let me put it over here to the side. So we'll put it over here. I'm just starting to learn this software. So they've put it, there we go. Yeah, they put it on, they put their filming of the planet Venus with a regular Nikon DSLR camera, one of those fancy cameras. And they recorded the image, and I have it. Actually, let me do this correctly. It is over. I have a mirror image going, so that way, that way, that way. All right. So anyway, they sent me the Twitter link to this guy who filmed Venus, and Venus is rendering like this. And from what folks tell me, Venus has phases. Who knew? But the fact that Venus has phases is new news to me. And I saw this image, and it didn't take 2 seconds for this image to come to mind. So we know that the moon doesn't do what the crescent of Islam does. This is such news to us, that's and people that have studied the crescent of Islam have said, well, this is not how the phases of our moon go, so this is not the moon. But take a look at Venus. If there isn't a grand similarity there. And Venus has phases. I will bring that up in a second. Just see if you can see that. Let me bring in the image of the phases of Venus. I am loving this technology that I am using, but you guys are suffering the learning curve. And I apologize. Where is the phases of Venus? All right, I'll have to produce that for you in tomorrow's video. But I can't quite find the image now. And then you take a look at this. Nope, this image. Let me see. There. Technology. Take a look at that. Now, tell me when you look at that image that you don't see a planet in front of a planet with a star. That to me, I can never look at this image again and not see a planet floating in orbit and blocking another planet. So, this is an image that blows me away. Um, so this is what I came across today, and um, and I'm just literally amazed because this reflects many images that we've seen individually and independently, not through the help of any government sources around the world. And so we're seeing this reflected in Venus and not in Mars. And to give you another thing that really blows you away, again, I'm coming from a Jew-Boo tradition, Jewish Buddhist tradition, and I am really getting a lot of information out of Islam. So right now, everybody knows that Islam is in Ramadan. And when does Ramadan end? May 23rd. When do these two comets intersect in the skies? May 23rd. Then you look at this image, and it all comes in threes for me. And there's obviously a planet, there's obviously a sphere that is between our planet and Venus. So, it's not me saying this. I'm just a conduit to a lot of information that that is coming forth. So it's really amazing. Yes, like everybody said, the Hopi tradition, the Muslim tradition, um, the Indian religion traditions. Uh, yeah, there is astrotheology. There's very much astrotheology. Stone circles, come on. Stone circles are all about astrotheology. I happen to live in a town that was the last place where I walk and where I place my feet at the end of the peninsula here in Murcia, Spain, which is at the end of the road of the Camino de Santiago, which this place is just incredibly powerful in tradition. This place was the last vestige of pagan tradition on the continent of Europe. And the amount of stone circles in this northwestern portion, well, just in the peninsula of Spain. Let me take that back. I do have a little bit of pride for the north of Spain, but all of Spain has so much megalithic structures, so many megalithic structures that they boggle the mind, and they are, and we can just go into that one day. But the vast amount of megalithic structures just stuns me. The amount of stone circles around here is just mind-boggling. Big stone circles, small stone circles that you can't really see unless you take a satellite image and zoom in on an area. You're like, I have been walking in and out and past a stone circle for the past year, which happened to me. And there over the hill from where I live, there's a hidden stone circle that no one in the town where I live knew of. you can't see unless you take a look at a satellite image. There's a stone circle. You see it obviously. And you walk around it and you're like, oh my God, it's a stone circle. And it faces the Atlantic Ocean. And it faces basically where the North American continent is. But there's a lot of activity there. On many days, the belt of Orion is perfectly horizontal to the coastline. And it's an amazing thing to see. Some people ask me if I knew what a difference between a comet and an asteroid what kind of idiot I am. I think I've established that I know the difference between a comet and an asteroid, and that I know more about comets than paid professionals. And how's the video, guys? Make sure that we're okay on that. Let me know if there's any problems. But also anything that you want me to see, because this is all stream of thought, and I'm not going to get back to watch this whole video. Just drop an email to me at thebreadcrumbsproject@gmail.com. If there's anything that really, the substance that you want to see in this video, drop me an email. Let me know of your interest, and let me know really what attracted you to that subject. So anyways, here I am in the northwest of Spain, and on the last pagan Earth of the European Grand Project. And it was it wasn't the Romans that kicked out the pagans. It wasn't and the pagans were the Celtic tribes, which are just a mystery to historians. The Celtic tribes are they're just a mass of people that share genetic heritage, and how and where and what they did and what they were. But there's many indications that they were able to move massive pieces of stone, that they had astrogeography down pat, and that their alignments of these stone circles are stunning to their age. Of course, our planet has had drift, and so all of that was erased, and I hate to say it, but fundamentally by the Catholic tradition. The Visigoths didn't erase, the Romans didn't do it, the Visigoths didn't do it, but the Catholic, the Muslims really didn't interfere with the Celtic people that remained here, but it was the Catholic push to establish one religion in Europe. And I don't blame them for the times. Look, guys, this is history. You got to deal with what you have at the times. But the Catholic push was a big one, and they pushed the Celtic tribes off of the continent, and the pagan traditions pretty much went away then, because they had been long destroyed in Great Britain. So this was truly the end of paganism here in Mushia, because if you remember, it was pretty much the wars with the Boudica rebellion that the Celts were just wiped out. I mean, when Rome has enough of you, the Romans have enough of you, and so they will wipe you off the face of the earth. And so they pretty much started a war with the Druids and the Celtic tradition, and it just remained so. So all of that tradition, all of why these stone circles were here, how they operated, all of the megalithic structures, all of that information just wiped off the face of the earth, because it's supposed to. That's the way it goes in the human tradition. Like, you don't judge it. You just don't judge it. It's just the way it is. So so we don't know why the stone circles are here, what the tradition is. I definitely feel that they were learning centers. They were centers of observation for, okay, the Anunnaki passed on as much knowledge as they could, and different tribes, different people picked up on different educations. If people went around and taught the different Celtic tribes, okay, this is where the star is going to be this day. This day is important. This is where the sun is going to be. This is the solstice. This is the equinox, and this is when we're coming back. So it is traditions that are completely erased from human memory. And as Graham Hancock, many of you know Graham Hancock, brilliant man. Talk about someone who suffered slings and arrows. Graham Hancock by the truckloads. But when you're an investigator and you see a breadcrumb trail, you have to follow it. You can't ignore it. You go to bed, you think about it. You wake up, you think about it. And if something doesn't make sense, it just doesn't make sense, and you have to work it out till it makes sense. So this is, and hey guys, I'm not reading comments right now because I'm on a stream of consciousness. So Graham Hancock uncovered so much of this. Zecharia Sitchin uncovered so much of the human tradition that has been erased, but Graham Hancock said it best. We're humans. Our civilization suffers from amnesia, and I'm just saying, not just on one level, not on one civilization, but many civilizations past. And the way we're designed right now, that we suffer the curse of Tower of Babel, that we suffer the curse of Adam and Eve, that we suffer the curse of Cain and Abel. We just can't get that lofty to where we're going to be as we will be in the fifth age. All of us can see, feel, and touch it, and many of us feel that this is happening. Many of us feel that May 23rd is just going to be an important day. So, it is incredible that we're all coming together like this. I made a comment earlier, if you remember, the great movie, cult classic now, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. People in the early 80s were meeting up, and I've seen the same thing too, and the family can't understand what they've seen. They understand. And so, this has been going on for a while. People call it an awakening. I definitely have awoken to many things that I denied long ago and slept right through. So, but yeah, there's a great awakening happening. Somebody commented on something. The pole shift. Epic forever. Let's talk about the pole shift. And let's talk about the moving sun. Everybody in this chat room that has seen and experienced the moving sun, that is not in the place where it's supposed to be, please raise your hand. Because I don't track this. Oh, the Mandela effect. I can talk about that. I'm happy to talk about that. I have chemtrails. Chemtrails, guys. Chemtrails are simply oxygen, a mist being regenerated after going through the compression of going through jet fuel. So air is taken in and compressed, and air mostly is water vapor. CO2. Oh man, I'm sorry about jumping around, but CO2 in the atmosphere is destroying our planet. Oh my God, global warming. Oh, let's spend all this useless money on global warming. Look it up. CO2 makes up 0.03, not even 1% of our atmosphere. It makes up 0.03% of our atmosphere. Not even 0.05. Not even 1% of the air we breathe of our atmosphere. Most of our atmosphere, believe it or not, is water vapor. So when jet engines take in this water vapor, and they're a vacuum cleaner. So if you put your hand in front of a really good vacuum cleaner, imagine a super efficient big vacuum cleaner. So it brings in all this compressed air, and it compresses the fan blades, and then it ignites this compressed air with basically a kerosene, a low burn, low fuel, and that causes a combustion. So not only do you have the air blades pushing you through the air, but then you get that extra turbo boost from the combustion. So it's not just the combustion that gets that plane going. Those big turbo blade fans, they're sucking in air and they're causing the movement. They're just like a good old rotor plane of World War II days. Um, yeah, the contrails are just that compressed air that is mostly water vapor, and it's just left behind. And it depends on the air temperature. It depends on the air temperature. Um, you know, man, you, to carry that much, not only the fuel to get the plane and the cargo, but also the chemicals to generate a contrail, it's mathematically impossible. So that's just my feeling. I'm not telling you you're wrong in your thoughts. That's just Breadcrumbs Project doing my investigations long ago and coming up with this conclusion. All right, so I explained my Breadcrumbs Project way, and that's understanding how a jet engine works, especially a big old Rolls-Royce beauty. Woo, woo. And that Louisiana does come out. So, did I lose a train of thought? Ah, yes. So planet. So yeah, we're all having a bit of a close encounters moment. Many of you have talked about the sun has been moving, and then we have this image that the Islam tradition presents of this planet in front of what I'm saying is Venus, and then we're having massive landslides, some pretty significant Earth tremblings going on, and then we have the movement of the pole shift. Now, I did some quick mental calculations last night after the conversations that we had, and uh, I think, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but the pole shift that we've measured right now is roughly 15 degrees. Could be right, could be wrong, but that's just the last thing that I've read, that it just suddenly started moving. And then a commenter yesterday commented that she has done some measurements of where the sun should be to true north, and she feels is 15 degrees off. So is the pole shift being caused by our planet being moved? This is not a leap of imagination, people. We have been looking at solar systems around our galaxy for the past 20 years and have been doing some amazing research. And one of my very earlier videos, you can go into my history, talks about the fact that all of the solar systems that we have located and have been able to map and map their activity as we do our solar system, how the Earth and the Mars and Venus and Mercury are the close planets, close rocky planets into the sun, and then we have these beautiful gas giants on the outside of the sun, starting with Jupiter, and then Neptune, and so on. And it's beautiful, really, the way our solar system functions as a clock. And many of you seen those mechanical devices that represent our solar system and how beautiful they go. Well, we've looked at 2,000 to 3,000 solar systems right now, and not a one behaves like ours. Not a one. They are chaotic. Their orbits are either way too fast, crazy fast, or they are going way too slow, and most of them going counter orbit to where our orbits are. So there's that. Then We have, sorry, I'm just noticing a really heavy and intense cloud outside of my house over the ocean. Um, Outside of that, there is the the symmetry versus the chaos. How can you only have one that has perfect symmetry and 3,000 that have chaos? How many times are we just going to find this accident? And the beauty of 365 days in a year, and at the pace that our Earth goes around, and that our gravity is perfect for our being. Guys, that's not coincidence. How many coincidences can you get to say, all right, this has been created? Somebody's put a lot of effort, somebody's put a lot of thought and a lot of design. They've moved the planets because every solar system that we find outside of ours has the gas giants close to their suns, and most of their suns are binary suns, by the way. Ours is the only one that we really have found that has a good central sun that maintains the orbits. Most of the suns that we see are binary in nature. We see them bright as one, but when we look close up, most solar systems have two stars. Two stars! So there may be this is where Planet X that somebody has talked about in the comments section. Somebody's talked about Planet X. NASA, I've done plenty of videos, and I can do some more. NASA has admitted to Planet X existing. Caltech, brilliant astronomer, has said it's out there. Here's the math. It's undeniable. And do you know how far this goes? Speaking of Neptune, the only way we found Neptune is because somebody did a calculation that there's a missing planet. So they said if this planet is here, then there should be another planet there, and then our orbit makes sense. And then one night, not far after that was announced, boom, Neptune was found with a telescope, what we'd now call a very antique telescope, but a telescope nonetheless found Neptune mathematically right where this mathematician said it would be. So all the mathematical calculations of orbits, of gravity, and how we do our planetary gravitational boosts with satellites that are going to the outer solar systems. We do that because we understand the orbits of these planets. They are predictable, and their gravity is also established and predictable due to our orbit of the solar system. And the only way that any of that fundamental math makes sense is you have to have a Planet X. You have to have a Nibiru. You have to have a Planet 12, which is how the Sumerians looked at it, the 12th planet. And that's how Zecharia Sitchin, was a Jew. He was a faithful, practicing Jew. What he was talking about, the Nephilim, is in the Torah. So he didn't cause any religious controversy with the way he read the tablets in his fundamental principia of knowing who we are. He was just reading, man. He was a brilliant businessman. He's a well-studied Jew. He was successful, and so he had time in his time, and he learned Sumerian cuneiforms. He understood the Sumerian language. Why did he understand the Sumerian language? Because he's a Sumerian. Judaism and Sumerian share so much of their language. So, no, Planet X is not going to hit Earth. Sad boy. I can't. No. If you've gone through all of the trouble, think about this, guys. 3,000 solar systems. Ours is the only one that's unique. So you've gone through millions of years Even I'll give you billions of years, but I'm going to go on the millions of years uh, um, uh, supposition. So you've worked on this solar system. You've moved planets, baby. You move the big gas giants out. Boom, 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 boom. You've put them in a perfect line. Jupiter the biggest, and then you have 4 other gas giants. You have Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, and you have those 4 beautiful gas giants in a perfect symmetry that protect the big 4 rocky planets of the interior of our solar system. They do. We've seen it happen with Shoemaker Levy 9, took out a comet, a predictable. I mean, it was so predictable. All the cameras were looking, all of the telescopes that could look at it were looking at it at the time, and they did that. And the predictability of a comet before Oumuamua was established. And then Oumuamua came, and now all of the information that comes out from the top that trickles down to the bottom is that comets are just unpredictable. Always have been. Yeah, no, yeah, no, 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 yeah, no, no. Yeah, no, no. Comets are unpredictable. I never heard of those words in all of my nerdism. And I am a nerd, Star Trek nerd to the bone. And I never in my life heard the words, comets are unpredictable. What a load. Comets are made of ice. Comets are made of ice. I can't, I mean, that just drives me nuts. All of the, all the talk that we've had, let's see, I had an image. That's not it. An image. You know, I don't want to. I have to learn to play with the software a little bit more. But I had an image of a satellite, a picture of 67p that shows dust and rocks, no water. All the science that we had from all of our visits to comets right now, not a lick of ice. You go to all of the websites and you read anything to do with comets, and all they talk about is ice. And not to berate the subject, but we would not be able to see ice from the planet Earth to the distance that these rocks that are relatively tiny, 2 to 3 kilometers, that's tiny. We can't see that. So if it's gassy, that's gas. We can't see gas from a million miles away, or even 500,000 miles away. We can't see dust. Dust 500,000 miles away, 1,000,000 miles away, 100,000 miles away cannot reflect enough sunlight for us to be able to see it. The only thing that can discharge enough luminescence for us to be able to see a comet from the distance that they are is an electrical discharge. Right. Right, Halo. I mean, you just, if you went around the sun, just the energy and the heat alone would melt you. It's never made any sense. But every single article about comets talks about water ice. The European expedition, Rosetta, launched a little small probe called Philae, landed poorly on 67p, and it was just rock and dust, man. So you have 2 diametrically opposed visions of comets. You have one of academia, who is living in a complete fantasy, and then you have us, who are coming to harsh realities, and the harsh realities tell us that we were not not evolved. We're not Darwinian evolution. Our genetic code tells us that we are certainly invented, and we are certainly have been manipulated throughout the creation of humanity. Our planet is millions of years old. Somebody has spent a lot of time moving all of this around and putting us in the position. And do you think that they're going to allow Planet 9, Planet 12, their home planet, to smack into us? Are you kidding me? Who is going to take a Rolls Royce that they treasure, their prized item, their prized vehicle, whatever you want to say, the Hope Diamond, and take a bat to it, take a hammer to it, destroy it? No. And I know the 12th planet tradition of Nibiru destroying the planet Earth was one malinterpretation of thousands upon thousands of cuneiform that that have been interpreted. The big problem of our society is that we haven't interpreted near enough of those tablets from the Sumerian tradition that tells us the history of humanity. So, no, somebody's invested a whole lot of treasure and time into the human tradition. Oh, sorry about the triangle. Don't mean to do the Freemason triangle, but I'm European. I can't help it. Someone that has put this much time and tradition into this planet is not going to allow anything like that to happen to us. If they are able to create a solar system, then they can kick somebody's ass. All right. So, it's kind of like I'm a big passionate lover of dogs. I love dogs more than people, and I've done a fair amount of dog training in my time. And one of the fundamental principles of a pack is, packs fight each other. Pack dogs are always wrestling each other because you need to know who the top dog is. You need to know out of that group of dogs who is the toughest dog, because if that dog can kick everybody's ass in this pack, then we should be okay, because he's going to have to fight and lead the fight for the pack to anything else that comes, and so that's why puppies and dogs really gravitate to humans, because, man, we can produce some stuff that other dogs can't. I'm not going off with that pack that's starving and feeding. You can spank me. You can certainly whip me in a fight. You feed me, and you show me unconditional love as a dog. I mean, that's heaven for me. So that's why dogs stay with you. You can beat anything that he can't. Anything that comes his way that can beat him, you, that human, certainly can take it on, because you can dominate him. So the same goes for our solar system. We are puppies to our Creator. We are pack animals to our Creator. We, without a doubt, rely on His protection, their protection, because I'm going with the Torah. I'm going with the biblical tradition. There was a whole group of people involved in creating this planet. There was a whole group of people involved in creating this race of humans, and all of the Cambrian explosion that occurred, and all of the wars that have occurred on this planet. That's all come from somewhere. So, epic. Oh, yeah. Our DNA is junk. All right. I love that whole thing. Most of our DNA is junk. So, an electrical engineer understands comets much better than any professional astronomer. Clearly. An astronomer thinks that this thing is made of ice, even though he has pictures and scientific data oodles that say no, it's dust and rock. An electrical engineer automatically, they just look at a comet, think about it for a minute, and they're like, well, that's an electrical event. To do a little bit of research. Oh, it's made of rock and dust. Makes perfect sense to an electrical engineer. So DNA, you talk to a medical doctor about DNA, and I am not knocking a medical doctor. They're brilliant people. I'm not knocking an astronomer. They're brilliant people. But their fundamental understanding of the root of what they are studying is flawed. So astronomers make observations and conclusions. They don't study things in depth. They don't study the electricity capacity of our solar system. They just make observations and conclusions. Medical doctors do the same thing, observations and conclusions. They could never hope to understand how DNA works. You have to have a programming background, a fundamental understanding of programming, and not just any programming. It's the worst, it's machine language. You have to understand binary and how it works to understand the basics of DNA. All right? I don't know how many of you in my crew here understand binary code machine language, because there's several interfaces that go. I mean, most of us, all of us actually, are using a device that's fundamentally working off of machine language. There's probably a handful of people in the world still that can really do programming in machine language, and those are people that are chip processors and chip manufacturers. I understand binary. I understand binary code not only on the aspect of your processor on the device that you're watching this show over, but I understand it as programmers can't understand. I understand the network. And if you want to make money in the world, you want to have job security for the rest of your existence, be a network engineer. Because networks are the dark arts of computing. Oh, you love your device. You love everything about it. But you have no idea what 5G is, what 4G is, what 3G was, what Wi-Fi is. And I worked for Lucent Technologies in my youth, and they were the developers of Wi-Fi technology. I remember when I was working in the telephone industry, and they brought this strange thing when laptops were starting to make when laptops were actually laptops, they brought into our telephone division of Lucent a laptop that worked without wires. And all of us propeller heads, all of us nerds, and I say propeller heads, were just like, and all the old guys who worked off of cabling, basic cable. I don't have any network cable in my hands, but we're like, oh, we're doomed. Yeah, because Wi-Fi takes away a lot of the need of cabling. But to tell you a secret about Wi-Fi doesn't work as cabling does. You will always get better performance using cable because cable does duplexing. So you have 8 wires in a network cable, and you have 2 are redundant, and they're actually there to provide dampening effect to the 2 other cables that are active. So then you have 2 other cables that are active. One is transmit and one is receive. And so you have duplex happening on cabling at all times. Duplex, transmit and receive, transmit and receive. And but on wireless, on Wi-Fi, and which I'm using right now, which is probably why I'm having video issues. I need to go ahead and get a cable and link up a cable to my router. I just figured out something. Has duplex going on. Wi-Fi is a walkie-talkie effect. Push to talk and let go to send. It happens really really quickly and softly because you don't notice it because of several technologies are in play. But you get simulated duplexing because of time division, multiplexing, but you don't get actual true duplexing. You have simplexing going on. We call it simplex. One channel, and that one channel, that simplex, has to do the whole conversation. So your Wi-Fi devices do a lot of push and push to receive, push, let go, push, let go, push, let go. So in 5G, 5G is not anything to be freaked out about. I'm excited about 5G. The only thing that 5G does differently is it focuses the beam of the antenna. So right now, an antenna is very passive. What 5G brings is an active antenna. So it can point more bandwidth to your device and actually follow you as you move. And I was just working on that before I left Lucent Technologies, and we were just beginning to work on something like that. And so I'm really glad that the technology has come through for 5G. It's really cool stuff. Um, my Wi-Fi is 2.4. I get better performance at 2.4 gigahertz than 5 gigahertz. So what happens with 2 and 4 gigahertz? What you do, you lose amplitude. So the more that happens when you move up in your power, then you lose amplitude. So you get really high performance really close by, but you lose a lot of your the amplitude of your signal. So I can't walk around as much as I'd like. And honestly, you don't get any performance. The gigahertz, we're functioning in megs. Just because you move up in gigahertz doesn't mean you're in gigabit technology. Wow. Sorry to go off the rails on that, but I think I've established my understanding of networks and programming, and I understand DNA perfectly. And anytime I try to talk to any medical professional about DNA, their eyes glaze over, they get mad, they tell me I'm wrong, and yeah, they tell me every time most of it's junk. And you can just look at it and see the brilliance and say, there's nothing junk in DNA, baby. There's nothing junk. First of all, DNA is the smallest computer code on the planet. Your nucleus is the smallest microcomputer on the planet. The nucleus in your little cells runs faster than any supercomputer can on this planet. I mean, it's not even close. It's not even close, the speed. Our computers all run off of binary code. Our networks run off of binary code, okay? Binary, strictly 1 zeros. And you can even play in that 1 off and 0. You have a little third space that we can play with, but it gets complicated because our processors and our machine code really can't handle that. So, even though we move power up and go faster, there's certain limitations that we have within the structure. Many of your houses that have DSL, you just have one pair of copper wires going to your house. So you're not even getting the full performance of duplex happening on your DSL line, on your pair of copper lines. You need 2 sets of wires to have duplexing and to have transmit and receive happening at the exact same time. So, when you're talking on your telephone and we can talk over each other and we hear each other talking, that's duplexing happening. Walkie-talkie is simplex. So a DSL line just has 1 pair of copper lines. It has 2 problems. You only can do simplexing to the home when you have copper lines, telephone, DSL. And then you only have a mathematical amount of bits that you can push off to that 24 gauge copper wire. So it's a small, thin wire, and you have to push a lot of data. So, modems in the day, they were doing, we have this, and we got this speed. But once you got past 49 baud, you were really just playing around with numbers and what we call compression. So DSL, any kind of DSL is tough. What you do have if you have cable internet, then you have the true ability to duplex, because there's so much bandwidth in in cable technology that there's plenty of room to divide up the copper in a cable TV cable where you can go ahead and do duplexing. And then finally in fiber optics, although you have 2 fibers, you definitely have duplexing going on in that environment as well. All right. So I understand DNA. Medical doctors don't. I told you that and I challenge you to tell me I'm wrong, that the nucleus is not the fastest, most incredible, and this is of every single cell in your body, even in your hair, the nucleus that you have in your the live cells that you have on your body. Its nucleus is the fastest computer, and then it's working off of a 4-protein biological code. It's working in a 4-protein biological code. So it is 4 times if you just have 2 binary happening. And it's not 8. You're on magnitude. Okay? 2 times the order of 4. So you're suddenly in the area of 16 bits that you can work with. Then it's in a hexagonal layout, so your communications in those proteins on that DNA strand is not only those 4 cells, but they have 4 sequences of transmission in their helixes. And then those, depending on the environment, move reflecting differently, so time affects how these guys work, man. There's no junk there. It's just, unless you have a sophisticated background in programming, can you ever hope to understand DNA? All right. Have I bored you guys? I'm waiting to catch up on the comment threads. I've gone an hour, 56 minutes, just talking away. So waiting for the comment thread to catch up, catching my air. Yeah, nearly 970 subs. By close of business tonight, I'll be at 1,000, and that's incredible. And everybody that has subbed is just added so much to the discussion. Oh, Mandela, the Mandela effect. You're going to disagree with me, most of you, because it's something that you see and feel highly. And ironically, as all the studying that I've done, and especially where it started, the root cause of Mandela and him dying in the 80s, and then the different occasions where people have different memories, is an effect of Samuel Clemens, an effect that Samuel Clemens noted. And who is Samuel Clemens? Anybody that's paying attention to the thread right now, so I can talk about the Mandela effect. Who is Samuel Clemens? Mark Twain. That's right. Mark Twain had a very famous saying that a lie will make its way halfway around the world before the truth will even put its pants on. So the saying goes, and I'm butchering it right now, a lie will make it halfway around the world before the truth can wake up, put its pants on, and get out there to correct the record. And so as you guys can tell, I've been studying the news. I'm a news junkie since birth, because news was ever present at our table. And it was not just simple local news, but geopolitical news. And since my family has always had, working in the embassy system, I've always been able to separate fly shit from black pepper. And so many times my dad would say what the news was reporting is not actually what's happening. So the news tells a story, tells a narrative, blasts it out to everybody over their evening meal back in the 70s, 80s, and up into the 90s. And so the impression of what people had from the news was not actually what had occurred. All right, so to the Mandela dying thing, I remember that clearly. I remember that so well. This goes back to Live Aid. If many of y'all remember Live Aid, and where the singer of the Boomtown Rats, Bob Geldof, just, man, he got it in his heart. He was going to solve the food problem, the poverty. He was going to, we were such a rich nation in the world in the 80s. We had so much excess. How could we not feed Africa? Africa was starving, so he started doing events. Feed Africa, feed the world. Dun, 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 dun. Feed the world. I remember it so well. And at the same time, but wasn't really tied into each other, was the fact that South Africa was suffering apartheid. And Nelson Mandela was suffering and lingering in jail. And so that whole apartheid movement got caught up in the excitement of all these celebrities coming to help Africa and finally feed Africa and give it hope, bring modernization to Africa, and bring, just at least feed everybody. And they raised millions of dollars. And in one of the Live Aids, they talked about apartheid. And during that time, Nelson was on a hunger strike, and Winnie Mandela, the wife, was his spokesperson, and she would go out there and she would plead and she would tell the story, and when it came to Live Aid, he was near death, and the reporters were reporting things. We understand. We think from different sources that Nelson Mandela has actually passed away from his food strike. This is just, how can the world allow this to happen? And all of a sudden, boom, Nelson Mandela is dead, and that became part of the culture. We didn't know if Nelson Mandela was dead or alive because the apartheid didn't allow any information to come out of the jails. So Winnie was saying, I don't know if he's dead. I don't know if he's alive. And then popular culture just embraced the fact that Nelson Mandela was dead until he actually died. But they just reflect the news that they were getting at the time. And to everything, Luke, I'm your father. No, I remember clearly. I remember hearing all that when I was a kid, and that was the big thing. Holy begonias, Darth Vader is Luke's father. Yeah, I died too. But no, there was a big speech that he gave, and it was a little long-winded for my age. I was raptured by it, but there was this scene of Darth Vader, come, join us, let us be together. But he never said, Luke, I am your father. It was a different reveal. I forget the words exactly. But when we were kids, we would do that all the time. We'd pick on each other. You'd say, tell your best friend, wink, wink. Hey, Luke, I'm your father. All the mother jokes. Your mama's so big. Your mama this. Your mama that. And you go, Luke, I'm your father. Luke, I'm your father. Then there was Saturday Night Live skits, and then T-shirts and everything. But pop culture is the Mandela effect. Pop culture. So much so now that we truly suffer for it, because we have America that sees two different worlds. You're literally and the Q and Scott Adams, the writer for Dilbert, said it best. America is in one big movie theater. We are looking at one screen, but we are seeing two different movies. So leftist liberal Democrats see one thing, and then conservative Republicans see something else entirely happening going on. And so you can ask any Democrat, how many women has Donald Trump raped? Thousands. The man has raped thousands of women. Don't you know? Where you been? And then you ask a conservative, well, how many women has Donald Trump raped? None that I know of. No one's pressed charges. He's pretty filthy. I mean, he's a billionaire. He's probably been with a lot of women. I mean, if you're in New York and you're a billionaire, you know, you have some of the most expensive prostitutes. I'm not saying Donald Trump's been with prostitutes, but you have some of the most gorgeous, talented, erudite, intelligent, passionate prostitutes that you're paying $2,000 to $5,000 an hour for. 5 of 10 hours of their company is nothing to a Donald Trump. So why would you rape a woman and go through all of that nonsense when you can just drop a wad of cash on the table? Let's have fun. Let's go. He doesn't drink. He's never done any drugs. He's been a fine family man with kids. And there has never been a whiff of a rape tied to Donald Trump. And I have been in the company I have worked with, I have partied with, I have been around a lot of very rich people. And the further you go up in the level of wealth is the less risk they are willing to take. Do you understand that? The richer you get, the less risk you're willing to take. And proportionally, the less personal risk you're willing to take. Because as you're not wealthy by yourself, Donald Trump is not individually wealthy. He's wealthy due to his employees and the companies he manages. So all those companies depend on his behavior and his attitude. So one rape can clean out, it takes only one oh shit to wipe out all those attaboys. It takes one single credible rape to be investigated by the police. Okay? So if the police are going to investigate, it has to be a charge. If there is a charge and the police investigate it, the police don't investigate it by themselves. The DA says, yes, there's probable cause there. Let's bring everybody in. Let's do all the tests. None of that's ever happened to Donald Trump. So your conservatives will say, no, he's obnoxious. He's orange. He's funny. He's gotten a lot done. Everything that we've been promised for 30 years, he's actually doing. So, I'm kind of cool with him, and he's unpredictable. If you read his book, that's the way he behaves in public. Because if you're unpredictable at the bargaining table, you're going to get the best bargain. If you're predictable at the bargaining table, they'll clean your pockets out. And that's just the way business is. I'm a lousy businessman. I just don't have time for it. I don't have patience for it. And Donald Trump loves the art of the deal, man. I mean, he had the number one television show, the number one reality television show. Everybody wanted to be Donald Trump when The Apprentice was going on, man. All the celebs that really wanted to do something with their life. I mean, the screening process for that show was intense. You're fired. You're fired. Mr. Trump, tell me I'm fired. Sure, you're fired. And I mean, it was great. Man, You felt the energy. Everybody came off of the show talking about, man, how I do the deal is completely wrong. You got to go in all in. If you're not all in and you lose, then you've lost because you left stuff on the table. If you leave anything on the table and lose, fine. But if you leave anything on the table and you win, then you've got it all. And that's the person that won Apprentice. When they go all in, they go all in. Donald Trump went all in. And the second before he went down that elevator, the rappers loved him, television loved him, and there was not a whiff of rape or any women making any accusations. The second he said, I'm going to run for president of the United States as a Republican, the entire leftist machine went into overdrive. And it was to the highest extent now. We now know that the president of the United States at the time, Barack Obama, had orchestrated and was running a spy operation into the Trump campaign. So, Obama the day before Donald Trump announced was like, hey, that Donald Trump, that's a fine man. Fine man, yes. He's done a lot for the community, and that show, The Apprentice, really brings out a dynamic in people where they try to do their best. They really do. He's a fine Republican. That man's a racist. The man's a racist. He has raped. He has committed atrocities in Russia. I understand sodomy. So, that's just the reality of the situation. So we have America looking at two different men, looking at one man in two different ways. And so that's why I say the Mandela effect. Those of us that remember things correctly can unwind the Mandela effects. All right. Sorry, guys, I went on there a little bit. What's the realistic chance of the MP actually taking place? Kunwar, it is, if you look at it as an electrical engineer, it looks very probable. It looks very probable. All right, EMP talk. Sorry, guys. All right, I'm in the comment section now. All right, so we know very well that these two objects, all the objects that we see now that are comets, are electrical manifestations. Is there anyone that does not support the electrical manifestation? And Richard, this is for you, and I'll go as deep as you need me to go. And if there's not anybody that believes it, then we can talk about that. But I'm going to say that everybody understands that it's has just been established. So we have our two highly electric events coming through a highly charged sun, and their closest approach to each other is the closest they're going to be at the sun, in the sun, closest to they're going to be to the sun. And as these two same charged comets interact with each other, their electrical fields are going to brush up against each other. We won't see it because their electrical fields, if their visible comas are 5 times the sun, then their electric fields go far out beyond that. So as they start to get close to each other, you can just imagine crack, 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 and they're going through a negative field, and they are two positively charged objects. Then they are going to interact with each other here. Not here, but here where their electrical fields are going to interact. And at that place, there is going to be such a massive discharge of ionization of plasma that the things that are already superheated and super activated and super energetic, well, they're just going to explode. as we see in a nuclear bomb. A nuclear bomb, a hydrogen bomb, is so intense because the nuclear effect takes that hydrogen gas and makes those simple hydrogen molecules, those simple hydrogen atoms, explode with so much energy. It detonates at the highest energy that we know on this planet, and that is a nuclear hydrogen bomb. So it's not the nuclear part of the bomb that actually does the devastation of a hydrogen bomb. It's the hydrogen atoms that have been activated by the nuclear bomb effect. So the nuclear bomb goes off and the hydrogen atoms go boom, 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 boom. And when a single little tiny, the smallest atom that we know of is a hydrogen atom, one electron, one neutron. When that neutron explodes in that single little tiny atom, it gives off so much energy that it's unimaginable. But when you have gazillions of those going off, you have a hydrogen nuclear bomb effect. So then you have these two guys approach each other starting the 20th, 21st of May, and their electrical fields are going to interact. Now, if they suddenly bounced away from each other, nothing's going to happen. But they're not only coming towards each other, they're going together so very fast that creates its own energy. Imagine what we've heard of the rod from God weapon that we have in space, where you don't actually have to send an explosive device to do damage. You just need a kinetic device that can withstand reentry into the solar system, and just the amount of kinetic energy is going to do an immense amount of damage. You look at a tank projectile coming out of our beautiful M1A1 Abrams. Once the explosion goes off and the projectile comes out of the barrel and it discharges its sabot, the projectile of a tank is just a depleted aluminum rod. It's just a rod flying through the air really fast, really pointy, and then it impacts that other tank or whatever it's impacting, and just the kinetic energy alone of its speed does the explosion. So it's not an explosion in the head of the projectile anymore. It's just the speed of the projectile that does the damage. And then you have a super dense material like depleted uranium. You multiply the density times the speed, and that gives you your energy equation, the energy release equation, depending on what you're impacting. So you have these two devices that have that kinetic energy moving so fast. Then they have that electrical field moving so fast. So you're going to have a sonic boom, the kinetic energies affecting each other, and then those electrical fields that nothing can stop it because of that kinetic energy. So depending on how close they come to each other is the intensity of the EMP. The EMP is going to happen. That is unavoidable. You have two positively charged objects traveling at great speed and generating great electrical fields through a negative energy field, a strong one of the strongest that we know of, which is the sun. There is going to be an EMP. It depends how close they come to each other as to the strength and impact it will have on humanity. So the EMP is going to happen. It just depends how close these two guys get to each other in the northern hemisphere space as to the impact that it will have. All right, does that help, Richard? Yes, it's not kind of like, it's absolutely 100% static electricity. Yes, it is absolutely static electricity. So you have a certain amount of static electricity that goes from a negative to a positive charge. But when then you have two equal charges meeting in an opposite charged environment, the release of those two equal fields is going to be incredible. No, Faraday cages don't really need to be grounded depending on the level of energy you're talking about. So if a Faraday cage is going to be in an attraction that Nikola Tesla created, yeah, I mean when you're dealing with lightning bolts, I'd want that Faraday cage grounded. But if you're talking about an EMP, the EMP will just go around. It will just travel around your Faraday cage, your metallically covered object. So, but you can't have metal on metal. The example that you have with a microwave is you have a metal encasement and then plastic and then another metal encasement where the cooking goes. And when you close the door, you see that glass has metal. You know, that little weird thing that you look at, like, why is that so weird? And then you close it. Well, there's insulation. So you need insulation between the metals and make sure that it's something substantive. At least a cardboard box, if not a couple of cardboard boxes. Or the microwave cage is perfect for this level of EMP. Again, EMP is not a nuclear event. You know, you don't suffer a nuclear burn from an EMP. We know about EMPs from nuclear events because they generate an EMP. So you have the nuclear event and its fallout stop at a certain point, but beyond that point, and for a good ways, you suffer the effects of an EMP, where any electrical devices that were running will cease, and due to their controllers going bad. And the more sophisticated a device, the more sensitive it is to an EMP. Epic forever, yes. Yes, two magnets of the same polarity. That's exactly, yes. Yes, the energy that you have from two magnets, which I have here, because I'm a nerd, and you have magnets when you're a nerd. So when you have that positive to negative effect, yeah, the attraction. And then when you have the other sides, and these are weak magnets, then you have that rejection, because it's positive to positive. No, I don't like you. I don't want to attract any more positives. I've got plenty of positives. Give me some negative. Okay, here, how about some negative? So happy together. Da, 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 da. So, yes, so you have those two positive charges coming at each other with a kinetic effect, with ionized fields, with high intensity comas, which are electrical events. Pacow! Or pacow. Human bodies, we're good. We have many television shows that have demonstrated how an EMP works, where somebody's driving a car and they have to go under a massive magnet that is controlled by a massive room full of capacitors to be able to do just the massive amount of energy to affect something that is within 6 feet of it. So the test that we don't have the amount of equipment to generate an EMP. We couldn't generate an EMP to affect anybody if our lives depended on it. You know, that's why it was interesting. It's one of the breadcrumbs that the president put forth, that we need to strengthen our infrastructure against an EMP. Man, don't spend any money, Mr. President, on EMP. You just make sure that if a nuclear warhead doesn't come our way, then we don't have to worry about an EMP. Worry about the nuclear warhead coming our way. And we have all that technology. We have an amazing amount of anti-missile technology. You know, I mean, you've seen some of the stuff out of the Iraq war that we've developed, that a missile can't get to our people. because you can shoot it down with an amazing Vulcan machine gun, which is a work of art. So we have the anti-missile technology. Why are we going to spend billions of dollars to protect government facilities against an EMP? This is just 6 months ago. What? Now we're telling electrical companies to protect against an EMP? Why, Mr. President? Why, President Trump, are you doing this? Protect against nuclear war. Anyways, what sense of nuclear war does it take to justify this expense, Mr. Trump, Mr. President? Please tell me the nuclear threat that we have to insulate ourselves against an EMP. Because if a nuclear device hits us, the last thing we're going to be worried about is the EMP. All right, batteries and solar panels will pretty much be fine. Just make sure your solar panels are unplugged, and I would put some kind of covering over them. So all of you guys who have solar panels, make sure that when you hear and there's going to be a warning. You don't have to go May 23rd to go do all of this. Make sure you have a plan in place. If there's no running electricity through it, and you have some kind of covering, the EMP is not going to affect it. It's not an energy zap. It is an energy. It's a magnetic pulse. Magnets. It's magnetism. It's a magnetic pulse. And if you put a strong enough magnet to any electrical device, you're going to F it up. And humans can be around powerful magnets for the most part without much effect, unless you have a metallic device in your body. I think that's the best way I can put this. You can probably think of the EMP as a giant moment in one of those things that does a magnetic scan of your body. So magnetism is not going to affect the body. The EMP is not going to affect the body. Just make sure you're inside. So it's an EMP. It's not going to happen without warning. We're first going to see the visual effects. If these two electrical bodies do interact in the way I think, we're going to see the light first, because light travels faster than anything. Then we're going to hear the sound, because sound travels faster than light. This is the second thing that travels. And then the actual energetic event will come very shortly after the sound, because they're moving in the same way. If you can imagine a nuclear explosion that you've seen, or any massive explosion that you've seen, you first see the explosion, boom. Then you hear the sound, boom. And then you have the concussion wave. And the concussion wave is the actual EMP. Yeah, who will provide the warning? It'll be generated from NASA. All of a sudden, NASA is going to be talking about, we're noticing something very interesting. We're noticing the fields of these comets and the sun, and so they're going to weave a tale like they do. God, they have all of us believing that comets are made of ice for the last 50 years. I believed it until a month and a half ago. Chicken wire is good. Chicken wire, aluminum foil, a refrigerator is good. A freezer is good. Just make sure you do a good wrap of metal, insulator metal, aluminum foil, metal, aluminum foil, insulator, aluminum foil, and then put it in the refrigerator. Igor is a brilliant man. Richard, thank you for the questions. Richard Olson, welcome to the family. Igor is an independent researcher who has taught himself astronomy and astroarchaeology and everything to do with the stars, because he is on the hunt for Planet 12, Planet 9, Nibiru, like everybody else is. The thing that he doesn't have, like I don't have, are the constraints of bosses telling me, telling me, hey, you can't say that. I can come on here YouTube as long as YouTube lets me. I am chatting away, an hour and a half now. So Uh, Igor has been studying the stars for 5 years and the planets, and he was the first one that I know of to notice a lot of the discrepancies of what NASA's been telling us. He's one of the people that has been really warning about some of the impending dooms that we are seeing. He was one of the first ones to start tracking Comet Atlas. He was the first one to start talking about Comet Swan. And Igor's YouTube page is fascinating. It's a fascinating study. It's going to cost you some hours, but it's against the grain, and it has an avatar of a gorilla head, because that's how Igor pictures himself, just a big old gorilla head. And he's stubborn, man. He is stubborn. He will chase something down. He will admit to a mistake like I do, but in the chase, 90% of what we get is correct. 10% is just chaff in doing your process thinking. So Igor Against the Grain has a vast video repository of his research and him finding Nibiru, finding the binary sun that is traveling with Nibiru. And he's also found there's a lot of discussion in the Sumerian tablets that Nibiru is not its own planet, that it's a binary planet, that it has two planets that creates its gravitational field, and that it travels with its own sun. So he's been able to find that, and he is also of the Hopi tradition, and discusses that as well. So it's against the grain. It's going to cost you some time. It's fascinating. He has been on the cutting edge. Hopefully one day I'll be able to talk to him. Endgame, yo, breadcrumbs. Why should they pull the Corona scam when the event hits us anyway? It doesn't make any sense to me. Yes, it absolutely makes sense. It very much makes sense. This is classic movie theater stuff. This is how movies are written. This is how grand drama unfolds. The first thing that you have to do before a massive EMP event that's going to slow down. Brain goes faster than mouth. That's going to disrupt the entire globe. Again, this is going to be a global phenomenon. It's going to hit the United States. It's going to hit Canada. It's going to hit the Arctic, the Antarctic, the Southern Hemisphere, the Northern Hemisphere. All the planets are going to be impacted by this EMP. So when that happens, the only people that are really going to be safe are the submarines. The submarines and the ships at sea are the only people, and they have been safe in the corona as well. So the COVID. So they're going to be safe. They are insulated, especially submarines. So the Navy fleets are good. The shipping fleets, all that trade will still be good. Yeah, I mean, just the way ships are constructed, they're natural Faraday cages. So ships at sea, everybody's going to be good. Maybe that guy who's out on the deck chatting on his cell phone, he's going to lose his cell phone, but those guys can usually afford to buy a new one. So all of them are going to be safe, and it's going to impact the entire globe. So you have everybody stop moving as much as possible. Stop the distribution of people. Have them get back to their hometowns as much as possible. If you're a youth and you're living and working in Dallas or Houston, come back home to Louisiana, and let's weather this thing together. And so that has happened. I know of these cases. So families are together right now. The international travel by airplanes is also greatly diminished. Airplanes are also natural Faraday cages. A good example is when lightning strikes an airplane. Nothing happens to it because the lightning hits one wing and it just travels through and goes off on another, because an airplane is a perfect Faraday cage. So airplanes that are in the air during this event should not suffer. But again, we'll have light, we'll have sound, and then we'll have concussion. So there will definitely be a warning. I believe the government is aware of this event, especially the American government, then their NASA is going to concoct something. I just know these people. I know these people. I know these people. If they're not busting down doors and burning telephones off the hook for these grand comets that have entered our inner solar system like nothing ever before, if they are not calling all of their newspaper contacts and History Channel and setting up the command centers and everybody in their PPE, that's for sure, and everybody's social distancing, but the experts talking about this and all of these bodies of ice flying through the air, and who could have ever imagined that these two bodies of ice would intersect each other and be stacked on top of each other in the northern hemisphere where we can all see it. These two beautiful bodies of ice like that is going to be gorgeous. NASA hasn't gone out of business. People are working in NASA fine, getting paid. They're just doing it from home. So you have astronomers. The problem with astronomers right now, professional astronomers all over the world, is that the information pipeline has been cut off to them. So all that you see is all they can regurgitate. And so many people have told me, you just need to talk to an astronomer, Charles. They'll clear all this stuff up for you. Let me tell the astronomer, well, those are not bodies of ice. Well, the conversation's not going to go well. I've done those conversations, so no. Shu, you're great. What's your opinion? I know things get intense with intellectual people having a discussion on things that are just so new to us. Einstein has energy on both sides of the equation. No, Shu. Einstein has mass on one side of an equation, and then he has energy on the other side of the equation. Mass can become energy, but it has to go twice the speed of light. E equals mc squared. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. So that mass, whatever it is, depending on its size, and let's talk about hydrogen. Let's talk about a hydrogen atom. So that little nucleus of hydrogen, once it explodes, it gives off not twice the energy, but 2 times the energy that it contains. So yes, Einstein is definitely right that energy equals mass. E equals mc squared. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. Yeah. So energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. That's how you get your energy. So if you can get mass going twice twice the speed of light, then you have it. If you can slow energy down enough, it will become mass. Energy on one side, mass and speed on the other. Yes, wake up already. There are just so many meteors. There's massive landslides. Some of the earthquakes that are going on are pretty impressive. They're not massive, but they're very impressive. And something that Igor has done, when you do your research on Igor, Richard, electric sun, absolutely, no doubt about it. The corona of the sun is 1,000,000 degrees Kelvin. The surface of the sun is 6,000 degrees Kelvin. You don't increase energy coming off of a surface. An electrical vent like a welding rod is what happens to the sun. The welding rod is an electrical event, an electrical sun. So there's a good discussion there. So anyways, Igor over at the Against the Grain, which he does go against the grain, has done an amazing study and has been able to correlate where a comet is, which is doing a perihelion run towards the sun, and earthquakes and earth disturbances. So there's a one-to-one floodings, just different things that surprise people all of a sudden. are correlated to comets coming in through the sun. How about that? And that's on Igor. I'm just regurgitating what Igor said. I'm guilty of that too. I don't have the wherewithal to to study that yet. And just like I was talking about with the sun moving in perspective to everybody. Um, and so I don't have any reference or time of study to contradict anybody on where the sun is. Shu, yeah, you and I can disagree on everything, man or woman. Uh, yeah, Igor sings too. He's got a great voice and he plays the guitar. It's beautiful. So I haven't read anything, and you can be as wrong as you want in my thread. You're not offending me. But it's tough to talk about new things because everybody has their thoughts and ideas and really just kind of stands their grounds because they know what they know and they think what they think, and that is all because of our design, because of the Tower of Babel, the curse of Adam and Eve, the curse of Cain and Abel. We're just all going to be combative. Look, to everybody that's a politician and diplomats who say, "Oh, I can bring peace to the world. I can bring peace. I can do this. If we just bring socialism in, we bring peace to the world." Let me tell you something. Hey, sorry guys, my internet dropped out. All right. Hey Siri, you're up too. Okay, so we're good. My internet dropped out. Sorry. It wasn't Big Brother. I still am in rural Spain, so these things happen. The Hopi prophecy, Kunwar, is please look it up because when you read it, it just blows your mind. The Hopi prophecy talks about the blue Kashina and the red Kashina meeting and doing a dance in the sky. So it's a blue star and a red star that do a dance in the northern hemisphere. And preferably in the constellation of Orion, which I think that's where the intersection of Swan and of Swan and Atlas are going to happen in the Orion constellation. And when these two events happen, that signals the end of the fourth age. The Hopi believe that mankind has been put here and they live in ages. So they have been warning for the last 4 to 5 years, the elders. They've said that many signs of their tradition have indicated that we are at the end of the fifth age and that we should look for the signs of the Kashinas. Well, at the beginning of tracking Comet Atlas was blue, and then we saw Pan-STARRS, which was being hidden from us by NASA, as red, as a red star, as a bright red star. So Igor was able to capture video of this and was able to get several confirmations. And then, and so we had a red star in the northern hemisphere, and then we had this blue star, which started turning green to indicate the beginning of the end of the fourth age. And so when these two dance, a large energy event is going to occur. We should all be indoors for when this happens. They say we're going to see a light, we're going to hear a sound, and then an event is going to happen, and then there will be confusion and struggle for those people that don't have a faith, that don't have a religion, and then the struggle will end. The great white brother, the great creator, will come to the planet. The mask will be taken off. So all of these things that we don't see, that we don't understand, that we don't believe, and things that are happening here that we don't understand, the mask will be torn off. The Creator will present Himself to the entire globe. There will be no doubt when this happens, and then the fifth age will begin. I hope that gets it. Just checking to see if you guys can hear and see me because I got bumped from the live stream. Am I back up?